announcement, okay? This is like the biggest thing. Um, like, and it includes a Valve thing. And I just ran over this article. Um, and it says some. I want to read it to you guys. Because I'm a big Half-Life fan, and I thought, I don't know if I've done the rest of the episode for the regular series in Let's Plays. I might have. My PS4 sounds like it's about to blow up right now. So yeah. Um, I thought I might as well play what's it called? No Man's Sky because it's kind of close. I wouldn't say it's too close to like Half-Life, but you know what I'm trying to say. Either way, um, let's start talking about Half-Life. I'm probably not gonna be playing until like I discuss this because I haven't read through this article yet. I've just found it on Google. It's by Kyle Hillard. He put it up on August the 25th at 6:35 p.m. and it's been almost over like 10,000 views on this article, and it has 5-star rating. The name of the article is discussing Half-Life Surprise Episode 3 ending. Let me start off by reading this article. We didn't expect August 24th to be the day we finally learn about Half-Life Episode 3 story and conclusion, but here we are. Yesterday, Half-Life designer and writer Mark Laidlaw posted a blog on his personal website detailing the potential plot summaries for what could have been Half-Life 2 Episode 3. It is in all likelihood the closest will ever get to a true wrap up to the cliffhanger at the end of Half-Life 2 Episode 2. That's where like you and Alex are basically what's it called? You and Alex are trying to get to the Borealis, and basically what happens is you finally get to you finally get rid of the super portal the Combine have created, and you are about to head to the Arctic to get onto the Borealis, and then that's where Eli dies, and there's Half-Life 3, or Half-Life Episode 3, or Half-Life 3 hasn't been announced. But anyway, let me read on. And we really wanted to talk about it. We approached this discussion like we would an entry in our spoiled series, so warning. Half-Life spoilers are discussed in great details. If you don't want to know what happens at the end of Half-Life 2 episodes, or you want to read Laidlaw's blog post before listening to other people talk about it, do it now before watching the video. Alternatively, you can also watch this video for a summary of Landlord's story if you don't like looking at words. So I'm gonna watch this video. So yeah, I'll be right back, guys, and I will tell you what happens.
happened in Half-Life 2 Episode 3, which is nuts.
Is that what I have here?
That's what you have in your hand right now, Leo.
Wow.
Sounds insane. This is how they release Half-Life 3.
This is it, man. This is how they do it. I mean, this is essentially Half-Life 3. This, I don't know what you call it, because it's a blog post, it's kind of a summary, it's a plot for, there's even moments in there that you can, like, imagine where gameplay would have taken place and stuff like that, but this is Episode 3. This is Half-Life 2 Episode 3, and maybe even, an ending for Half-Life.
Right.
In theory.
Which is
insane.
pretty crazy, and it's cool to one sense. Like, we haven't had Half-Life for, like, over a decade now. We have this. And it's kind of like to get as official of a stance as we can get, like from the writer of the original games. Like, this is where he wanted to go with this. So that's really cool, but it's also kind of like a little sad because, like, well, we're not getting it. It's kind of like just a realization that I think we've all known for a while. Like, we're not getting Half-Life.
I mean, it is almost a nail in the coffin to a certain degree. Of like, they're not making this, so here's what would have happened if we had made it.
Right. It's interesting because there was a Twitter interaction with him today where somebody was saying they didn't fully understand the relationship between Alex and the G-Man that was laid out in this blog, and he said he couldn't go into it more because Valve might want to expand on it in the future.
Really?
Wording. Yeah.
Weird.
In like a card game or something?
I hope so. He's going to be a playable character in Dota soon enough. So let's kind of go through it bit by bit. It actually starts with, heads up, lots of spoilers for Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Episode 2. Eli just died over the course of this story, and Alex and Gordon are now heading to Antarctica to try to find the Borealis, a ship that they kind of teased.
We should say, too, that it might be helpful to go read the blog post if you haven't already. Like,
You should
we're not
absolutely
going
read the
to
blog
like
post,
go over that in detail, but we are going to talk about like what the contents of that post are.
I know.
I'll be reading that blog post. But for now, what you guys been hearing has been Game Informer talking about this. In no way do I own their video or anything of theirs. So just listen to the audio and tell me what you guys think. I will also be reading his blog. So anyway, let me continue with their video.
A quick aside, like the version we have that we grabbed right when it went up, kind of late last night. Thank you, Ben Hansen, for grabbing the text for that. But this morning, Mark actually updated the blog where he changed a lot of the names.
Yeah.
So like names that were really like Gordon Freeman and Alex Vance and Eli are all different names.
It's like Gertrude Fremont, something like that.
I guess maybe he's trying to be sneaky and doesn't want Valve to know that he posted
I
online.
don't think anybody's going to catch on. Really.
Valve has no idea.
It starts with them, Alex and Gordon heading to Antarctica with the idea that there's like another group behind them, I guess, like an army that's going to come help them. I don't know why they couldn't just go at the same time, but whatever. And they find the Borealis, and they also find Dr. Mossman, who is, if you guys remember, we're not sure if she's good or evil.
Right.
Alex seems to think she's definitely evil because she blames the death of her father on her. And there's actually a moment here where she kind of says, I've always been a double agent. I pretended to be working with the Combine to help the Resistance. And, Mark Laidlaw actually lines out here that Alex does not believe her, but strangely, Gordon Freeman, as the player, I guess, does. Which is weird to me. Like, is Mossman good or bad? Like, I still don't really know after the course of reading this.
Yeah, and I assume we're going to get to it later, like Mossman's fate.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, and then kind of colors Alex in a way. But I guess we can get to that ahead of time. But you mentioned the Borealis,
which is the ship.
Which is the ship that goes disappearing, and it's also, there's a connection to Aperture Science, because he mentions Aperture by name at one point.
They talk about something called the Bootstrap device, which is in the Borealis.
Yeah, Aperture is working on.
Yes.
I believe. And also, I believe the Borealis is featured, not featured, but like mentioned in Portal 2, I want to say, right?
It is, yeah. You can find the dry dock where the Borealis disappeared from.
Right. So that was just kind of a cool, like, way to connect those two franchises, which have always been sort of like tenuously connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that this game is theoretically would have continued to reference Portal. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the idea, at least that's what I took from it, is that Aperture made this thing, the bootstrap device, which was similar to their Portal device. And what Mark Laylaw writes is, with the bootstrap device, there was no need for entry or exit portals or any other devices. It was entirely self-contained. It sounds like it was something that would just let you travel anywhere you wanted instantly.
Right.
Which also makes it very dangerous, because it's a very powerful thing to be able to just go anywhere instantly.
He also mentions that the Aperture Enrichment Center was located in Lake Michigan. Do we know location before? Is this
I don't
new?
know. Was that a known thing?
I didn't know it.
I feel like this is new news.
Wow. Breaking.
Exclusive.
Breaking, exclusive, official.
Yeah, and then the thing that gets really crazy, which I've seen other people already sort of theorizing on Twitter, that one of the reasons that the game never came to be is because of what is happening in the Borealis. Just sounds absolutely crazy and awesome, because it's like shifting in and out of reality and time and like jumping all over the place. And I guess the idea was that you and Alex and Dr. Mossman, up to a certain point, would be in that ship while all that was happening. So you're like fighting the Combine, and the ship is like phasing in and out of reality. And I think they mentioned like bubbles. Wasn't that something? There were like pockets of interdimensional travel or something like that. Which, like, God, who knows how the gravity gun would have played into all that? Like,
there's not a lot of mechanic stuff mentioned in this.
Right? Yeah, there's only a few times where they even say, and then we fought the Combine for a while.
Yeah. So obviously, it would have been cool if we gotten a hint for like some new weapon ideas or new gameplay mechanics, but not a lot of that's here.
Then I triple jumped.
Like an idea for like a new cool weapon is what I was hoping to like see, like him
for sure,
like this new device that he used. But unless what was that time travel device, the bootstrap thing? Like unless that got worked into gameplay at some point and you were using that to like blow people into the past or something.
It sounded like maybe it was affecting the environment, but I don't know if you. This is all just assumptions based on but like it sounds like maybe it was just something that was happening that you would have to react to. I don't know if it was something that you had control over.
Sure.
As Gordon.
This is a bit of a time jump, but it reminded me of Titanfall 2 from last year, and also Dishonored 2, like those games where you're traveling between two time periods. And this isn't exactly the same, but just the idea of seeing the Borealis float in and out of time and seeing it like flicker between like multiple timelines, and like that technology of showing multiple times back to back, like it would have been cool if Valve had done this back when they were originally going to do a Half-Life 3 episode 3, because they would have beaten everybody to the punch by almost a decade, which is cool.
Yeah, they talk. Let's see. I can even read the part where Mark describes what is happening. On the Borealis. Time grew confused. Looking from the bridge, we could see the dry docks of Aperture Science at the moment of teleportation. Which that is really cool. Like basically, that's the place you see in Portal 2. If you track it down, it's actually hidden. And then there would also be glimpses of, Mark wrote, just as the Combine forces closed in from land, sea, and air. So there's like the 7-hour war that gets referenced a couple times over the course of Half-Life, where the Combine just appeared and took over the Earth. Like the idea that you could actually see that moment, even briefly, while in the Borealis sounds awesome. Because over the course of the game, Gordon wakes up well after things have already settled. Like the Combine had already taken over by the time Gordon reappears. And then you're like jumping around to the Antarctic wastelands, and you could, jumping through time, and like that to me, like stepping away from this, like that seemed like the coolest sort of gameplay thing about all of this. Like it was nice to get all these revelations about where these characters ended up, but man, I wish I could see that game. Like I want to walk around the ship and see all that stuff happening. That sounds so amazing.
Yeah, well, there's moments in here where I read through it and I was like, I can picture pretty clearly what this could have looked like. There's a moment where you run onto the Borealis right as it's about to flicker out of time, and then at that moment there's also like your troops are coming up from behind, and also like the enemy Combine is coming in to attack, and like there's like this army clashing right as you board, and then you blip out of time.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I can picture that pretty well.
I mean, some of the coolest moments from like Half-Life 2 are when you I think it's like halfway through the game where you get stuck in that transporter with Alex, and just 2 weeks pass, like in just a moment, and like things have changed in that 2 weeks. Like everyone just thought you were dead, and they're like, "Oh my God, Gordon, you're back again."
it's cool how they like have messed with time in the past with the Half-Life franchise, and I bet they would have continued to do that with this in some cool and clever ways. There's even the talk of just backing up a bit where you get on a transport plane and you fly out to go to Antarctica, which I have to say Antarctica would have been cool, like environment to explore in a Half-Life game, because I don't think we really explored a lot of snow areas, so that would have been kind of fun to see. But then your plane gets shot down, and he even talks about in this write-up, it's like, my memory's kind of fuzzy here. I mean, it's like, you can kind of see this, like, time jump, or
he would have been knocked out or something like that.
Yeah, kind of curious to see how the game would have handled that. If, he got knocked out, he kind of wakes up, and he's dazed.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that some of these mechanics they're talking about, jumping around in time, dimensions and stuff, as we saw in Titanfall 2 and Bioshock Infinite, those kinds of things, do you think that factored into Mr. Laidlaw, deciding to eventually release this? Does he think, like, if Valve does go back to it, there's no way they're still going to do this, since it's in some ways been done across a bunch of different other things?
Yeah, like, how reactive is Valve to that? Like, do they see what other people are doing and be like, well, we got to cut that out, we can't do that anymore? That's a good point. I don't know.
It's a great question. It's a huge mystery to you, because it's like, how official was any of this to begin with? Obviously, it was him. So if he was still there at Valve, he could probably make this happen because he was, pretty high up.
Which he's not. Like, he's
not at
last
Valve
year,
anymore, right? So that sort of makes a lot of this unofficial in a sense. I mean, it's official in that he wrote it, and so I don't know if a similar write-up or treatment for Half-Life Episode 3 is in a file cabinet somewhere at Valve, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that Valve has to stick to that if they were ever to release a game like that.
Right.
Yeah, they could do. You're right. They could totally do something completely different. But even after reading this, I would be totally happy to play this game.
Yeah, I think the foundation's there. It sounds really solid. Yeah. It sounds like a really cool idea. And I'd be really excited to play it as well. Should we talk about
I agree with him. It does sound pretty cool. Like, I mean, who wouldn't want to play in that kind of game?
Before we jump into more of the Borealis stuff, talk about Dr. Breen.
Yeah. Dr. Breen was, I guess, the bad guy from Half-Life 2, essentially. Like, he was, I guess, the human who negotiated he negotiated with the Combine to let most humans live on Earth.
Right.
And then he kind of works with them. And he was killed at the end of Episode 1 or Episode, do you guys remember? He was, no? Leo, you're good?
Don't remember which one.
No? Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping you guys could remind me. I have vague memories of, encountering him in an office.
Yeah, I think when the central hub kind of blew up at the beginning of Episode 2, I think he was in there. And then the idea here is that though he did die, his consciousness was sort of computerized and then put into one of the Combine grub creatures.
Breen Grub.
A Breen Grub. Which,
would have been an iconic character.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone would know the name Breen Grub right now.
Get your action figures and...
How would that have worked? I guess he would have been like a big slug with would he have just had Dr. Breen's voice? Or just like a computerized face or something?
I want to imagine he would have his face somehow.
Yeah.
Like in Halo. The guy, the commander in the flood?
I know what you're talking about, yeah. Yeah, that would have worked.
Yeah,
sure. But I guess he just he hates it, right? And he just wants you to kill him.
It turns out being a slug's not fun.
Yeah, I guess the Combine, they kind of suck, and he doesn't like working for them.
Would you guys like being a slug? Is my question I've written down here.
Oh, good question. Another good question.
What do slugs eat?
Thank you. What do slugs eat? No one knows.
Moss.
I don't know.
Yeah, Moss from
great.
the IT crowd.
That's right.
So
being a slug's not fun. Yeah. Also, you're terrified of salt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like salt.
Yeah, I like salty things.
So he super dies, which I guess Alex didn't wanted to torture him for a while, but the player, as Gordon Freeman, is nice enough to just kill him immediately, which is very sweet of us.
Well, it's confusing if he totally dies. The way it's worded is Alex doesn't want to give him a quick death, is what it sounds like.
Alex believed that a quick death was more than Wallace Breen deserved.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a stretch to say she was planning on torturing him for a while.
Well, that's what I read into it, so I don't know what to tell you.
The impression I got was that Alex was ready to just walk away and let him die slowly.
Sure.
Live in his,
yes, that makes more sense.
terrible, sloth form.
She was hooking up the electrodes to his groin.
She brought her battery.
But found was super interesting is that last line is like, out of Alex's sight, I might have done something to hasten the grub's demise before we proceeded. Which I was like, oh, I could see this as an opportunity for like player choice. Like, hey, are you going to flip this switch which turns off his like life support or something,
or just let him be?
Or let him be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. Because I don't think it would come up again, but it would still be an interesting choice.
Yeah. It kind of leads me to believe that even though, I mean, we'll get to the very end here in a bit, but like the fact that Breen is killed kind of makes me think that this could have been like a final Half-Life chapter, you know? Was it like even if it was episode 3, like it would have marked maybe a finale for Half-Life?
Sure.
Which we can talk more about as we
It definitely gives the series more closure than episode 2 did.
Yeah.
Because episode 2 left on a pretty big cliffhanger, I think.
I was doing research on a site called Wikipedia, and
I've heard of this.
There was an interview with Gabe Newell from 11 years ago, so this is all really good information I'm about to give. But it was Gabe Newell saying that essentially the Half-Life 2 episodes were Half-Life 3.
Right.
Okay. They were just putting it out episodic, so it didn't take, 6 years to come out. They would just do it bit by bit.
Which that plan fell apart.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think I'd heard that before, but yeah.
Yeah, so
11 years ago, probably.
Probably. In that sense, I think it would make perfect sense if this were the last game in the series. Since it'd be the end of the trilogy that was supposed to be Half-Life 3, essentially. Yeah,
because we have Breen that dies, and then there's also an encounter with Mossman, again, who is ambiguous about whose side she's really on. I guess she wants to save the Borealis and study it, but Alex wants to destroy it because that's what her father wanted. That was like her father's sort of dying wish, I guess.
Do we know why her father wanted to destroy it?
I think in episode 2 he said it was just really dangerous. And there is actually, I wrote down here, going back and sort of going through the plot of it.
He actually, the reason he wanted to destroy it, guys, is because of he thought that when Alex said prepare for unforeseen consequences, when she said that to him, he thought that, oh yeah, that must mean that G-Man, that something's gonna go completely wrong on the Borealis, and that they need to like destroy it before something goes bad. But that's I don't know, because some people haven't played Half-Life in a long time, so let me get back to what they were saying.
There's a moment where Eli reveals to the player, to Gordon Freeman, that he actually met with the G-Man at one point, and he actually promises to explain more later, but then he dies.
Okay.
So that's like a thread that's just like will forever be hanging from Half-Life 2 episode 2 because that character passes away. And I think that might play into whatever the Borealis is. I think Eli just saw it as like way too powerful a weapon, to have instant travel would just be too powerful. So he just wanted to see it destroyed.
Well, you go back all the way to Half-Life 1, and what kicked off the invasion to begin with was the activation of that machine.
Yes.
It was the activation of the Zen crystal.
You know what it was.
I don't remember what it was called.
It wasn't a teleportation machine. It was more of a collider, right?
Yeah, they were experimenting with like going into different dimensions. And in fact, another thing that happened in Half-Life 2 Episode 2 is that when Eli reveals that he has had communication with the G-Man, he tells Gordon that like the object, if you guys remember that Gordon pushes into the laser in the first game that like causes everything to happen.
Right.
The G-Man gave that material to Eli.
Oh, interesting.
Which is like,
so he had connection with Eli.
Yeah, which like makes the G-Man here, who's behind us, if you're listening to this, like his motivations are just totally questionable and mysterious. Like he started all of this, and then he will like periodically come in and save people. Like he took Alex away from an explosion at one point, and even said that a third party requested that he not do that. Like he says something in passing that it's like whatever that weird tenor that he speaks, where he's like, I was told to not save you, but I made the decision to do it.
He's always been a super mysterious figure.
I love him,
and I think he's great.
A major crush on him.
That's right.
He's right behind you.
Moving on, but yeah, he remains mysterious in this game.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about.
We can talk about that.
Yeah,
and not yet though.
Not yet.
But what I was going to say earlier is like Half-Life 1 kicks off with you doing the Hadron Collider experiment.
Whatever
and it destroys the fabric in time, and that's what initiates the invasion.
Yes.
So I could see
From the
where
Vortigaunts,
Eli would have been terrified of, like, well, obviously we shouldn't be messing with this stuff. We shouldn't be time traveling or porting through realities. So that's why he probably wants to destroy the bootstrap device.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those devices. He's like, we should just back away and maybe get out of this reality warping, phenomenon. Let's go hide in our hole again, maybe?
Let's not be part of the dimension hopping club anymore.
Yeah, it's just dangerous.
Yeah. Let's no longer prepare for unforeseen consequences.
We're like tiny slugs that can get eaten.
That's right.
By larger slugs.
So what happens with the Borealis is Mossman wants to save it, and Alex ends up killing her, according to Mr. Laidlaw's outline here.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, have you guys seen Alex as a cold stone killer?
Well, her dad just died, so...
Yeah.
I guess she did, kill Combine. It's not like she was an innocent person.
Yeah, I mean, she's killed plenty of people.
But it seems like they got into a fight, and then she killed Judith Mossman, and Judith wasn't a Combine. She was kind of more of a...
Like a double agent.
Yeah, mystery figures, obviously they disagreed, but it feels like killing her was harsh to me.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what they had to do, because then they blow it up. Then they blow up the Borealis.
But it kind of sets up Alex, at least in my mind, as so Alex could have been this,
Dylan.
This is her heel turn or something. This is where she turns and becomes, she's starting to get corrupted or something, or starting to become bad.
Or she doesn't want to take, she's tired as hell, and she's not going to take
She's not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
But because then the G-Man shows up, too, and, whisk her away. And I thought that was super interesting. And because the G-Man doesn't seem like a noble soul either, so there's something sinister going on there. And
He looks fine to me.
Yeah, he's great.
He looks like a real sweetheart.
But it does set it up where you're like, okay, well, what's going to happen with Alex? This could easily have set up, ended the game from Gordon's point of view, and then if they wanted to continue on Alex's story, they could have set that up in a different game or a different series.
Sure. Like Walking Dead.
Something
exactly.
Something to mention that we kind of brush past is in that jumping around time, that the Borealis is doing. One of the reasons Alex wants to blow up the ship is because she thinks that Alex grew convinced we were seeing one of the Combine's central staging areas for invading other worlds such as our own.
Right.
So the idea is that the Combine are concerned with hundreds of other planets, not just Earth, And she basically sees a window to if we blow that up, we could stop the Combine for good. Let's send the Borealis in there and blow it up, which is a pretty good plan.
Yeah. There's one line in here too where he's
kind of like Battlefield Earth. That's what they do in Battlefield Earth, if you guys recall.
Oh, so it's a ripoff.
That's right.
They created a time-traveling missile and steered it into the heart of the Combine's command center.
It's a bunch of cool words.
That's a back of the box blurb if I ever saw one.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So and then it's with the G-Man sort of shows up as they're about to set off the explosive. I think, right?
As Gordon's well, I guess he appears twice in the ending, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because he takes Alex with him, and that's what the person was asking about. Because there is some implied past between them.
Yeah, because Laidlaw writes that she had not seen him since she was a child or something like that, right?
Right.
Yeah, which is crazy. The G-Man is so weird. He's dealing with the Vance family, and then he's got Gordon hired freelance or something because he offers you a job at the end of Half-Life. So man, I love that there's this other and he sort of started this whole thing, but then he does generally seem to be good because he saves you a couple times. He's so confusing and weird, and I love how mysterious he is. And Laidlaw's story here does not really open up any new sort of information about him. I still feel like I know as much about G-Man as I ever have.
Yeah, that's the thing. It made me wonder how much exactly the writing team and Mark Laidlaw himself really know about the G-Man, or how much is just let's have a cool guy who does cool stuff. Because it's not like I need every mystery to be solved. He's cool as a mysterious character.
Yeah.
But this doesn't build on the mystery of him very much.
Yeah. But at some point, do you want any of the mystery to be revealed? I mean, that's the wrong phrase. I want it, but is it helpful to the narrative, and is it helpful to the story? Because once you reveal his past, he's not as interesting anymore because half of what makes him interesting is because he's mysterious.
Sure, yeah.
And then also it's can anything they come up with and explain to you live up to what's been built up into your head is this like mysterious character, and like you find out his past, you're like, oh, that's it.
That's the exact thing that I'll like logically say, this makes sense for them to do, but in my heart, I'm sad that we didn't learn what the G-Man was all about.
Yeah, I am too, and that's kind of like the catch-22 of having a character like that.
Yeah.
I would like to know who he's working for, because he seems to imply that there's like another sort of interdimensional thing happening that he's involved with, like
the F-Man,
the F-Man, the A through H-Man.
Yeah.
But he made me lose my train of thought. Like this.
I can keep listing Lettermans to buy you time.
But there's sort of theory that's been going around that maybe he is like part of the Combine too, like that he's just sort of facilitating their invasion. I mean, he pulled Gordon away for years while the Combine invaded.
Yeah.
So,
but then said he would like appreciated his work at the end of Half-Life 2.
That guy's weird.
Yeah, what's up with that guy?
Have we really hammered that down enough that the G-Man is really intriguing and mysterious and weird and scary?
Ben Hansen pointed out it stands for Good Man. So
we
can talk about that for a little bit.
Wait, the Good Bar Man? Is that what this is?
Good Bar Man.
I think it's John Goodman.
John Goodman.
Just a theory.
Speaking of mysterious figures, the Vortigaunts appear at the very end as well.
Right.
So right as Gordon is about to like ram the ship into the heart of the Combine area and blow it up, there's this cool line where it's like he realizes that this plan is like not really going to do much. He's like, I saw the Borealis, our most powerful weapon, would register as less than a fizzling match head as it blew itself apart.
That would have been a cool moment.
Which it would have been like kind of fun to like watch this thing like. No,
fun?
Just kidding. It's like somebody on the radar like turns over and is like, what was that?
Who was it? Just the slugs sort of looking at each other and clicking or whatever.
Was that something? I don't know. So meteor, and then, but before he dies, the Vortigaunts appear and like whisk him away.
Yeah.
And it sort of ends with this, with him sort of like reappearing years later in the future, presumably Earth, right? And nobody recognizes him. Nobody even really knows who he is anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like an interesting parallel to the beginning of 2. So it kind of like comes full circle in a sense.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of see that like rhythm, and like that's a cool way to end a series.
Yeah, because so the idea is that right before the explosion happens, G-Man takes Alex, and the Vortigaunts save Gordon. And then he's still alive, and then the Combiner's still around, presumably like injured, but still present.
Right.
And that's kind of where it's left. Like, there could be more to do. You could still find Alex. There could be more Half-Life games, but, I don't know. It could also be... It sort of functions as a satisfying conclusion as well.
Pseudo-satisfying, I would say. I think it's better than Episode 2, if they were going to end here.
Yes.
It doesn't sort of resolve...
It doesn't defeat the villain fully.
Yeah, it doesn't resolve the main conflict that the Combine, right? It introduces new mysteries with Alex and the G-Man, and which we sort of went over. We don't need all of those resolved, but I think it'd be nice to get a little bit more of a resolution.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty bleak ending for the whole series if this was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so some ways, like, it doesn't feel totally, like, satisfying to me, but it does feel better than 2, and at least feels like, oh, I could see them using this as a wrap-up for the episodes, for sure.
Yeah.
And then it's set up if they want to do something in the future with Alex or whatever.
Yeah.
I could see this as the end of Gordon's story, in a sense. Like, well, this is just a guy who's sort of, like, in the right place, or in the wrong place at the right time, and saw these things and sort of had these adventures, but he's just really a cog in a much larger machine.
G-Man's machine.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
Gordon Man.
Maybe. Hey, I've heard that theory, too, that the G-Man is Gordon Freeman. I don't really know how
You're
that
first person,
works.
so you might just be looking at a mirror every
That's why
time.
he never talks.
Oh, my gosh. I think we figured it out. Any final thoughts here? It was weird. Mark Laidlaw wrote it as though Gordon Freeman, or what's the name that he came up with? Gertrude
Fremont
or something.
Gertrude Fremont, writing a letter to no one in particular. So it was weird to kind of read this, thinking about it being Gordon's voice, because you've never heard that before,
Yeah.
But then he writes a monologue about everything that we didn't
Bro
get to
is
see in
snuffer.
this game that doesn't exist.
Yeah, what if this was Gordon Freeman's monologue at the end of Half-Life 2 Episode 3? He finally spoke and it was just 4 pages describing everything that happened. Amazing.
Let me tell
Oh
you
my
what just
God.
happened.
I kind of imagine that he sounds like Barry Manilow.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Can we hear what that would sound like?
I hope this letter finds you well.
It's me, Gordon Freeman. Yeah, I am happy to have a conclusion to Half-Life 2, so to speak. Thank you. But I'm a little upset. I guess not upset, but bummed that like this is how I had to experience. It was just reading a blog on Mark Laidlaw's website. I would have obviously preferred to have played through this story. But yeah, even some accompanying art in like comic book form or something, I don't know. That would have been interesting.
Or a novel, like maybe you could write a novel about this.
Because I
Come on, Mark.
What are you doing with your life?
I had some extra words here. What are you doing?
This is 4 pages. This isn't a novel.
This isn't a game.
But how do you guys feel about it? Is this a satisfying way to maybe not see any more Half-Life story?
I never thought we were even going to get this much, so I'm happy.
Yeah, in a sense, like it's cool that we got this. I agree. We're not the first people to say this, but Valve worked themselves into a corner a little bit, or I understand the pressure that Valve might feel in trying to deliver more Half-Life. Well, Half-Life is this brand that like has reached legendary status because the first 2 games like just happened to be so good that they sort of rewrote the rules of the industry, right? So like trying to do that again, like that's a lot of pressure. Like, oh, just make another game in this revered series. Like, even if it's just mediocre, or even if it's just like a good game, like it's not going to live up to the hype surrounding it. So I understand. And again, we're not the first people to say that, but like at least we got this. Like the story sounds cool, and it could be a really cool game. But we're probably not going to get it.
But Valve, please feel free to go and make this game. It sounds like you guys could knock it out pretty quickly.
How soon do you think we'll see a fan-made source mod of this game?
Oh, man.
Or at least the announcement.
Probably after the videos.
3 weeks, or 3 months, I think.
Honestly? Not 3 months?
3 months sounds reasonable.
And then Valve might even give it a thumbs up. I mean, honestly, they've done that before, sort of accepted things into their own canon.
If it's good enough.
Made by fans, so...
Wow, but that is like mostly remakes and stuff, right?
Well, I think there was a couple Portal things that were sort of expanded universe that they kind of said that they were okay with. So,
all right,
it can happen.
You hear that, fans? It's a challenge to you.
Steam was actually a fan-made project.
I heard that.
Too, yeah.
That's right. Gabe Newell, not a real person.
Yeah, I think a pair of fans came together to create him.
Hologram.
There we go. So that is basically Half-Life 2 Episode 3. So there you go.
We did it.
We did it. Us 3.
Good
the
job,
book
guys.
is closed.
The book is closed.
We tricked everybody into thinking this is a real post from Mark Laidlaw.
Yeah. Thanks for watching this video. And, go to GameInformer.com, and you can find a story that Reiner wrote all about trying to find Half-Life 3 that's very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
So pretty much, let's see, where's his blog post at? Let me read what this person has just said. Oh, what's up, man? So, here, I'm gonna read this off, Mark Laidlaw's, what's it called? Post. Dear player, I hope this letter finds you well. I can hear your complaint already. I must ask Gordon Freeman. We have not heard from you in ages. Well, if you care to hear excuses, I have plenty. The greatest of them being I've been in other dimensions and whatnot, unable to reach you by the usual means. This was the case again until 18 months ago, when I experienced a critical change in my circumstances and was redeposited on the shores. In the time since I have been able to think occasionally about how best to describe the intervening years, my years of silence. I do first apologize for the wait that done hasten to finally explain. Brief, quickly, and very little detail. Events following those described in previous letters referred to here as Episode 2. To begin with, as you may recall from the closing paragraphs of my previous missive, the death of Eli Vance shook us all. The research and rebellion team was traumatized, unable to be sure how much of our plans might be compromised, and what it made any sense to go on at all as we intended. And yet, once he's been buried, we found the strength and courage to regroup. It was the strong belief that her brave daughter, Alex Vance, that we should continue on as her father had wished. This is mother, but father. We headed to the Arctic coordinates transmitted by Eli's longtime assistant, Dr. Judith Mossman, which we believed to mark the location of her, location of the Borealis. Eli had felt strongly that the Borealis should have been destroyed rather than allowing it to fall into the hands of the Combine. Others on our team disagreed, believing that the Borealis might hold secrets to the revolution's success. Either way, the arguments weren't met until we found the vessel. Therefore, immediately after the service of Dr. Eli Vance, after the service for Dr. Eli Vance, Alex and I boarded a seaplane and set off to the Arctic. A much longer support team, mainly the Rebellion, was to follow behind by separate transportation. It is still unclear to me exactly what brought down our little aircraft. The following hours spent traversing the frigid waste in a blizzard are also a jumbled blur. Ill remembered and poorly defined. The next thing I clearly recall is our final approach to the coordinates. Dr. Judith has provided, and where we expect to find the Borealis. Sorry guys if it sounds like, I'm messing up here, but he's using words to hide what they really are. What we found instead was a complex fortified installation showing all the hallmarks of sinister, despaired technology. It surrounded a large open field of ice. Of the blank itself, there was no sign, or not at first, but we stealthily infiltrated the Borealis. We noticed a recurrent, strange, coherent auroral effect as of a vast hologram fading in and out of view. This bizarre phenomenon initially seemed an effect caused by immersed disparate lensing system. Alex and I soon realized that what we were actually seeing was the Borealis itself, phasing in and out of existence at the focus of the devices, the disparate device. The aliens, or the Combine, had had erected their compound to study and seize the ship. Whenever it materialized, what Dr. Mossman had provided were not coordinates for where the sub was located, but instead for where it was predicted to arrive. The Borealis was oscillating in and out of reality. Its pulses were gradually steadying, but there was no guarantee it would settle into place for long, or at all. We determined that we must put ourselves into position to board it at the instant it became completely physical. At this point, we were briefly detained, not captured by this period. I'm gonna say this is also the Combine, as we feared at first, but by the minions of our former nemesis. The convending and disbliss, Dr. Breen was not as we had last seen him, which is to say, he was not dead. At some point, the Combine had saved out an earlier version of him. Consistent, and upon his physical demise, they had imprinted the backup personality into a biological, biological blank resembling an enormous slug. They're talking about the advisor, the Breen advisor, despite occupying a position of relative power in the Combine hierarchy, seemed nervous and frightened of me. In particular, Breen did not know how his previous incarnation, the original Dr. Breen, had died. He knew only that I was responsible. Therefore, the advisor treated us with great caution. Still, he soon confessed, never able to keep it quiet for long, that he himself was a prisoner of the Combine. So it's basically saying he was the prisoner of the Combine. He took no pleasure from his current existence and pleaded. He took no pleasure from his current advisor existence and pleaded with us to end his life. Alex believed that a quick death was more than Dr. Breen deserved, but for my part, I felt a instance of pity and compassion. Out of Alex's sight, I might have done something to hasten the advisor's demise before we proceeded. not far from where we had been detained by Dr. Breen, we found Judas Mossman being held in a cell, held in a Combine interrogation cell. Things were tense between Judith and Alex. As might be imagined, Alex blamed Judith for her father's death, news of which Judith was devastated to hear for the first time. Judith tried to convince Alex that she had been a double agent, serving for the resistance all along, doing only what Eli had asked of her, even though she knew it might risk have risked being seen by her peers, but all of us as a traitor. I was convinced, Alex less so, but from the pragmatic point of view, we depended on Dr. Mossman for along with the Borealis coordinates. She possessed the resonance key, which would be necessary to bring the Borealis into our plane of existence. We skirmished with Combine soldiers protecting the Despair research post. Then Dr. Mossman untuned the Borealis to precisely the frequencies needed to bring it into brief coherence. In the short time available to us, we scrambled aboard the ship with an unknown number of Combine soldiers close behind. The ship's coherence for only a short time, and then its oscillations resumed. It was too late for our own resistance support, which arrived to join the Combine forces in battle just as we rebounded between universes and once again unmoored. I think that's on board. I think. What happened next is even harder to explain. Alex, Vance, Dr. Mossman, and myself sought control of the ship, its power source, its control room, its navigation center. The Borealis' history proved non-linear. Years before, during the Combine invasion, various members of an earlier science team worked in the hull of a dry dock, Borealis situated at the Toscan Island Aperture Base, Aperture Science. The whole of the dry dock, Borealis, situated at the Tuscan Island Aperture Science, or situated at the Aperture Science Research Enrichment Center. That's what I was trying to say. The whole of the dry dock, Borealis, situated at the Aperture Science Enrichment Center in Lake Michigan, had assembled what they have called the bootstrap device. If it worked as intended, it would emit a field large enough to surround the ship. This field would then itself travel instantly to any chosen destination without having to cover the intervening space. There was no need for entry or exit portals or any other devices. It was entirely self-contained. Unfortunately, the device had never been tested as the Combine pushed Earth into the 7 Hours War. The Combine seized control of our most important research facilities, the staff of the Borealis, with no other wish than to keep the ship out of the Combine's hands. Acted in desperation, switched on the field and flung the Borealis towards the most distant destination they could target, Antarctica. What they did not realize was the bootstrap device traveled in time as well as space, nor was it limited to the time or one location. The Borealis, and the movement of its activation were stretched across time and space between the nearly forgotten Lake Michigan of the 7 Hours War and the present day Antarctica. It was pulled like if it was like an elastic band vibrating, except where at certain points along its length one could find still points like the harmonic spots along a vibrating guitar string. One of these harmonics was where we boarded, but the string ran forward and back in both time and space, and we were soon pulled in every direction ourselves. Time grew confused. Looking from the bridge, we could see the dry docks of Aperture Science, and the moment of teleportation, just as the Combine forces closed in from land, sea, and air. At the same time, we could see the Antarctic wastelands where our friends were fighting to make their way to the protein Borealis, and in addition, glimpse of other worlds, somewhere in the future perhaps, or even in the past. Alex grew convinced we were seeing one of the Combine's central staging areas for invading other worlds, such as our own. We meanwhile fought at a running battle throughout the ship. Persuaded by Combine forces, we struggled to understand our situation and to agree on other course of action. Could we alter the course of the Borealis? Should we run it aground in the Antarctic, given our peers the chance to study it? Should we destroy it with all hands aboard, our own included? It was impossible to hold a coherent thought, given the baffling and paradox what's that word? Paradox time loops which passed through the ship like bubbles. I felt I was going mad, that we were all confronting myriad versions of ourselves in that ship that was half ghost. In that ship that was half like ghost ship, half nightmare funhouse. What it came down to at last was a choice. Judith Mossman argued responsibly that we should save the Borealis and deliver it to the resistance that our intelligent peers might study and harness its power. But Alex reminded me had sworn she would honor her father's death, demanded that we destroy the ship. He hatched a plan to he uses like words to cover it up. She hatched a plan to set the Borealis to self-destruct while riding it into the heart of the Combine invasion's nexus. Judith and Alex argued. Judith overpowered Alex and brought the Borealis area, preparing to shut off the bootstrap device and settle the ship on the ice. Then I heard a shot, and Judith fell. Alex had decided for all of us, or she weapon had, or that her weapon had. With Dr. Judith Moss dead, we committed to the suicide plunge. Grimly, Alex and I armed the Borealis, creating a time travel missile, and steered it to the heart of the Combine's central command center. At this point, as you will not doubt be unsurprised to hear, a certain sinister figure appeared in the form of a sneering trickster. I'm going to say this is G-Man. For once, he appeared not to me, but to Alex Vance. Alex had not seen the cryptical schoolmarm since childhood, but she recognized him instantly. Come along with me now. We have places to go and things to be done, said G-Man. And Alex decided she followed the strange man out the Borealis, out of our reality. For me, there was no convenient door held open, only a snicker and a sideways glance. I was left alone, riding a weaponized Borealis into the heart of the Combine world. An immense light blaze. I caught a cosmic view of the brilliantly glittering Dyson spear, and the vastness of the Combine's power, the futility of our struggle blossomed briefly in my awareness. I saw everything. Mainly, I saw how the Borealis, our most powerful weapon, would register as less than a fizzling matchhead as it blew itself apart, and what remained of me would be even less than that. Just then, as you had surely foreseen, the Vortigons parted their own checkered curtains of reality, reached in as they had on prior occasions, plucked me out and sent me aside. I barely got to see the fireworks begin, and here we are. I spoke of my return to the shore. It has been a curious path to lands I once knew, and surprising to see how much the terrain has changed. Enough time has passed that few remember me or what I was saying when last I spoke, or what precisely we hoped to accomplish. At this point, the resistance will have failed or succeeded, no thanks to me. Old friends have been silenced nor fallen by the wayside. I no longer know or recognize most members of the research team, though I believe the spirit of the rebellion still persists. I expect you know better than I the appropriate course of action, and I leave you to it. Expect no further correspondence from me regarding those matters. This is my final episode. Yours in Black Mesa research facility, Gordon Freeman, PhD. So basically, what we get out of this is the Half-Life story. Basically, what's it called? Gordon is basically has basically what's it called? He's basically telling us the story of through his eyes. Basically, this was one of the stories, and Laidlaw had said that if any of the stories, it would have been that one, but I feel like I would change it around a little bit. I don't know. I feel like if what's it called? They could have used this technology to, if it can go through time and space, they could have went back in time to when like the 7-hour war happened and fought the Combine, and it would have changed history. Not Aperture history, but Half-Life history. They would have got Black Mesa back together and what's it called? Researched the vessel a little bit more. But yeah, if you're wondering, what do I think of this? Well, it's a good ending to the Half-Life series, but I feel like it's not at the same time. I feel like it was not a complete story. I feel like there's more to it. Like, G-Man, why would he just take Alex instead of Gordon? And why would the Vortigons, what did they do to Gordon? Like, did they send him to like further down to the future, or what? It just depends. I will be sourcing the link to Laidlaw's blog in when this video gets out. I did the review about Dragon Ball Fusions. This video, how long has it been going on for? Been going on for a while, I bet. Yeah, it probably has. So I will be putting the source to Laidlaw's blog up in the comments. Also, all the material that's been shown in this video is I do not own it. I'm just a big Half-Life fan, you know, and I'd like to. I would think you guys would like to hear all this stuff. If you watched this video for so long, thank you, and I will be including this into the what's it called, in my Half-Life series or Valve series. But either way, I will look up more about this, you know, just to make sure. But you've heard all this stuff. This is what they're saying is the big conclusion to a Half-Life series. But I feel like I'm glad they did not go through with this one. I mean, I feel like the Combine. Okay, I like the bootstrap. The bootstrap and the going to the Borealis's dry docks and all that. I'm okay with that, okay? But I feel like it shouldn't be like warping in and out of reality. But the bootstrap should be a weapon. I don't know. That's probably just me being a Half-Life fan, but what do you guys think? Do you think they should have changed the story of this entitled ending that they say is the closest to the episode 3? Or, you know, do you think they should have not, you know, they should have just made it and been done with it? And I don't know. Just tell me down in the comments below. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. Like I said, I don't own any of the stuff that's been in this video that you've heard through my mic, like the Game Informer like stream with Half-Life 3 and all that. And I don't also own a Valve either, so, or the Half-Life games to be in general. So I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. Like I said, I'm on a source. I'm gonna put the link down in the description so you guys can look at the vlog. It's worded differently, but there's a reason why Laidlaw has done that. He's done it because he doesn't want to go out and say, "Oh yeah, this is what happened," like Gordon Freeman. I mean, he still like words it differently, but you know. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and like I said, this was like I wanted to talk about this to see what it was all about, because I mean, Half-Life has been around for like since the 1990s, and the last episode they did was in 2007. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you all also have a great day. This is Broku the Legendary signing out. Peace.